So what we're trying to do with this first step is to simply get your paper completely covered or nearly completely covered with tissue paper that has been glued on to just a regular white paper, okay? So this is different than when we just stain the paper and then we take the tissue paper off. We're actually going to glue it down. So here's a completed one. Let me show you the steps. It's very simple. The very first thing you need to do is write your name and class code on the back. You need to do that first because in just a few minutes, your whole paper is going to be really gluey and gooey, and you won't want to flip it over. So I've got my name and class code on the back first. Then I flip it over. It's okay if it's bled through a little bit because that's going to be covered up with tissue paper. Now, on your tables are lots of different pieces of tissue paper. You can use large pieces like this, or you can tear them to make them a little bit smaller. I would not cut them unless there's just a specific shape you need. There's really no need. So I think for this one, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to use these big pieces. So what I do is I start with my first piece, and I'm going to start in one section. Now each of you has a little cup with gluey water and a large paintbrush. I set the tissue paper down, and then I just take the gluey, watery paintbrush and paint on the gluey water. You don't need to be pretty about it because it's going to dry and you won't be able to see the glue when it dries. And it actually sort of just soaks through the tissue paper. So we're putting the glue on top instead of putting the glue underneath, which is a little different. So right now the glue looks white, but it will end up being just clear when it's dry. So there's my first piece. The important thing is that you've put glue everywhere, okay? On this edge, you'll notice it's run off the paper a little bit. That's okay. When it's dry, you can trim that off, or you can choose to leave it. So that's the first piece. Now let's think about the next thing I'm going to do. I'm going to add this yellow. Each time I add a new piece of tissue paper, I am going to overlap a little bit. That means one part of one paper will cover up another part of another paper. So I have to think about what will happen when the colors overlap because they will mix. So what will happen when the yellow goes over the blue? I predict that it will make a green. So I'm going to put them on top, and then I start with the glue again. And sure enough, it looks green. It's a little hard to tell in the on the camera, on the iPad, but in person it looks quite green. And then I finish adding the glue on the rest of the yellow. And you're going to keep going until you get the whole paper covered. When you finish, you'll slide your art onto the drying rack, and then you'll go back to your table and make your table all straightened up and ready for the next group of students that come in.